labor theory of value, move on to exploitation, and then
All right.
go to the
Okay.
calculation.
We're live with a capitalism versus socialism debate. So I guess if you guys want to introduce yourselves first, and if you guys have opening statements, go ahead with that, I guess. Okay. Whoever wants to go first, go for it.
I mean, I don't have an opening statement, but I guess I'll introduce myself. My name's Hampton, or Russian capitalist. I'm an anarcho-capitalist, and that's about it.
All right, I'm Owen, or Owen the Ancom 73 on TikTok, and I'm an anarcho-communist.
Alrighty.
Okay.
So I guess we could. Do you have an opening statement?
Yeah, I think I have a bit of one. So what we're debating over here mainly today is the economic calculation problem, or problem is in quotation marks, and the labor theory of value. I'm an anarcho-communist who believes in a post-capitalist world, in a post-capitalist society. I don't believe that anarcho-capitalism is really anarchism, or even opposed to hierarchies like true anarchism is. And I don't think that anarchists are really against the state. They really just want to privatize it. Or the anarcho-capitalists are really against the state.
Alright, yeah, we can. Alright, hello?
Can you hear him?
Yeah. Sorry, I don't. Was my mic like? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay, so I guess we could start with the labor theory of value, move on to exploitation, then the calculation problem, and finish off with anarcho-capitalism, because what you stated was just incorrect, and
All right.
we can just clear up some misconceptions. So I guess I could start off stating what the labor theory of value is, stating Marx's law. Quantity of labor that goes into producing a commodity determines its value. And Marx's law of value says that all things or products must exchange in relation or in proportion to its labor input. So my first question, I actually have quite a few objections, or they're really just questions, but first thing I guess I'll ask you is, why do labor inputs govern exchange?
Well, labor inputs don't exactly govern exchange as much, because Marx made this difference in Das Kapital, but there is a difference between value and price, or at least
No,
Marx thought so.
Marx demonstrated that value and price were synonymous.
No,
And
he demonstrated that the use value and the
Use-
value of a product were quite different.
Use value is okay. Well, so you said that labor inputs do not in fact govern exchange, or
No, labor inputs determine the value, but the price
yes,
is
but
determined.
that's governing. But
the
that's
price is
what we're
the
talking
price.
about.
The price is determined by the value and by supply and demand, which is what
Marx
Marx accounted for.
No, he didn't. Marx completely.
Yes, he did. He included that in
So
price.
if Marx accounted for supply and demand, why does the whole supply and demand theory and why does supply and demand curves completely just debunk the labor theory, right? Okay.
I don't.
So Marx even states that labor inputs govern exchange. So I guess where can we go from this? So can you answer my question? I don't think you've given a clear answer. Why do labor inputs govern exchange?
Well, labor governs the value of things and determines the value of things, because
Which governs exchange, according to his law.
There's also supply and demand is another factor.
Marx didn't account for that.
That's like another account for it.
Where
he did account for it when he was talking about price and the difference between price and in Das Kapital. It's
which volume?
It's a rather large part of it. I believe it's in volume 1. But he made that distinction between value and price, and he made the distinction of that value was completely determined by labor, but the actual price of something was determined by value.
So if there was a clear distinction between if there was a clear distinction between value and price, then empiricism for the labor theory of value to suggest that it's true is useless. If there's a clear distinction between the two, it would be useless.
fail to see your point, because value and price cannot be synonymous, because you have to make in capitalism, you have to make a profit. So how would value and price able to be
Because
synonymous? There would be
price is
no
reflective of our subjective like values of a product, which is why price always changes, and supply and demand and scarcity. Price is reflective of all of that, basically,
But
and
if
that's why
price was
prices change.
If price was completely synonymous with the value of something, then there would be
I never said
no
it was completely
profit
synonymous.
made.
Sorry, I should have just been more specific. But indirectly, yes, it is synonymous with value. But again, that's what I said isn't accounting for other variables, which I again just stated. So, yeah, price reflects value. It also reflects scarcity, supply and demand, and even just subjective value or values of commodities. So, I guess I could. So why do we need to quantify labor?
Quantify labor. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's why do we need to put labor into
Hold on,
numbers?
you're cutting out here, right?
Hello?
I can hear Hampton. Owen, can you hear Hampton?
No, his answer kind of cut out there. I could hear bits and pieces of it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So why does labor need to be put into numbers?
What is labor? Well, Marx didn't say that. There's a theory called socially conscious labor time, socially necessary labor time, which was the average labor time that it took to produce a product. And
Okay. So how do you objectively
that was how
measure
you
that?
determine,
If it varies among workers, Marx even
because
acknowledges
it's an average. An average is taking all
so
the
if somebody
workers,
works
dividing
above or
them by
below the
number of
average,
workers.
it shouldn't exchange in proportion to that time.
Well,
Should it just be completely forgotten?
That's why something is an average. There's always going to be things above and below an average.
Well, of course, but Marx doesn't account for this. He just says that things must exchange in proportion to the quantity of labor time that's gone into it. The socially necessary labor time. And the socially necessary labor time isn't spent making the commodity, because of course time is needed to make it, but that's not what the socially necessary labor time is spent. Rather, it is spent improving the quality of the labor, which in fact is really the only thing that would matter. But it would matter in regards to predetermining value. So why does, or let me, I guess I could rephrase this question again, because I've asked you this question and all you've said is that there's a distinction between price and value, when there really isn't. There really isn't a distinction.
If there wasn't a distinction, there would be no measure for profit. No companies in a capitalist system would ever profit if there was no distinction between value and price. But continue.
Okay. Okay. So where should I go to? So why do some commodities gain value as they grow older?
What commodities would that be referring to?
Just antiques. They have X amount of labor gone into them. Why do some gain value as they grow older?
Because again, this is about supply and demand. When the supply of certain things like that go down, they're considered.
But the labor theory of value doesn't account for supply and demand.
Again, it does. It doesn't account to the value, because the value of that thing doesn't change.
The value to what?
Price might change. The value of the commodity. The value of the commodity wouldn't change, but the value of the commodity wouldn't change, but the price would change.
So let's backtrack here. So demonstrate the distinction between price and value.
All right, price is how a thing is priced, and a price is never exactly the value, because if the price was exactly what the value of a product was, then there would be no profit. The price is above the value because you need to profit. Every company needs profit. The price
is the value. The value is above or below like the cost of something, because a profit is needed to make. And the reason people value things, again, is just determined by like subjective needs and
value is determined by labor. That's the labor theory of value.
Okay. So are you saying that labor is the only thing that creates value?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Okay. So let's take this equation. So you have x plus y plus w equals z. Z stands for the commodity, X equals, okay, so Z is the commodity, right? You have X plus Y plus W equals Z. So if labor was the only thing that mattered, why didn't Marx account for other variables, like such as, so X is labor, Y is capital, and W is any unknown variable. This equation is again x plus y plus w equals z. But you can't objectively tell what x or y, x, and w are. And so Marx completely ignores. Marx doesn't take into account of capital, like that's been put in, and he doesn't take into account of variables or even use value, like when determining value.
He does keep raw materials. He uses the equation of raw materials plus the labor equals the finished product.
By capital I'm talking about
what
like
capital
machines.
is included in the creation of a commodity.
No. By capital I'm talking about not capital, or I guess I could just phrase it as capital, but capital being like machinery and stuff. Marx doesn't account for this. He just completely disregards this. And if this was true,
he includes I believe you're including you're saying the upkeep costs to keep the machinery running and things like that.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about the machines in general.
Yeah. The price to install the machines to
no.
Keep the machines going.
I'm not saying that.
All that price is included in the raw materials.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying capital as in the machines itself, which is what the workers use with their labor. But Marx just says labor in and of itself.
Who makes the machines run?
That doesn't matter.
Right.
All we're talking
machines
about
are still laboring.
All we're talking about is just the workers' physical labor. That's all we're talking about. We're not talking about the machine's labor, and Marx didn't even account for this. So
that's because he was.
Okay, can I finish? Can I finish? So it doesn't matter what it was before, but with this, right? With Marx not even accounting for machinery, his equation or his theory doesn't account for any added extra value. Or sorry, according to him, extra value would be added with those machines if it's more labor, right? But it isn't accounted for though, because all his labor theory value says is just the quantity of labor. But it doesn't account for.
It also
no, it doesn't. It just says quantity of labor. No, it doesn't.
That's what the socially necessary labor.
Okay, you have a complete misunderstanding of what the labor theory value is.
I think you have a complete misunderstanding, sir.
Okay, so let me restate this. So labor theory value, right? The quantity of labor that goes into producing a commodity determines its value. Correct?
Correct.
Socially necessary labor time is just defined as the average amount or quantity of time gone into producing a commodity. Nowhere does that mention quality. Nowhere does it mention quality.
Well, it's
so you
included
can't say
in
quality. No, it isn't.
Idea of time, because let's say
no, it isn't.
I'm going to use an example here. Let's say
in the idea of time, it only includes quantity of labor. It does not include quality whatsoever.
Well, I'm going to use an example here to make it a little bit simpler for you. Let's say that a regular worker produces a commodity in 1 hour, but a handicapped worker produces the commodity with the same value in 6 hours. Now, you would probably think that the labor theory of value states that the one that was made in 6 hours is more valuable simply because it takes more time to make. However, the labor theory of value obviously accounts for that. Marx thought of
accounts
that,
for what?
Accounts for that one product, just because it took longer to make, doesn't mean that it's necessarily more valuable. That it has the same value, which is why he created socially necessary labor time.
Socially necessary. Okay. You're completely you're not understanding that socially necessary labor time is just the average amount of time.
It also takes into ability
it doesn't. It does not take into account of quality. It doesn't. It simply doesn't. Where are you getting your information from? Have you ever read Capital?
Yes, I have read Das Kapital.
You obviously have not. You obviously have not, because you do not know.
Have you ever read anything by
Yes,
Ayn
and you
Rand?
obviously do not know socially necessary labor time.
Have you read any book besides Ayn Rand? Because I'm really starting to doubt it.
Yes, I have.
All right.
Wait, so you're just completely just disregarding and everything, and just automatically thinking, right? I'd like to say this form is just confirmation bias, but you're completely just misdefining these words.
I think
you're completely misdefining. You're completely misdefining the labor theory value. He didn't. Marx never accounted for the quality. All the labor theory value says is the quantity. All the socially necessary labor time, all it means is just the average amount of time. Nowhere does it demonstrate quality. No, it does not. You cannot just make assumptions. You cannot
I've
make
read
assumptions.
I've read the book. He
Where
stated
does
it
he
clearly in the
mention?
book.
Where
I
does
don't
he
have
mention
I don't have the
quality?
page number right in front of me.
Okay.
Okay, I don't have Das Kapital right in front
Unless
of me.
unless you can
I
read
could
it, I do.
easily
He
get
does not
that.
mention quality.
I
He
don't
just
have the
doesn't.
exact page number
Well,
for
okay.
you,
So
but
if
it
you
is
can't read
included
the
in the
exact
book.
page, if you can't read it, or if you can't give me the exact quote, then I'm not going to believe you. Okay,
Well, I
because you're
haven't
just
memorized
making
the
these
exact
baseless
quote.
assertions. You're just saying that
Baseless
socially
assertions,
necessary.
I'm not making a
Listen to me.
basic assertion. This
Listen
is
to
from
me.
the book.
Okay, listen to me. What you're not you haven't quoted anything from the book, and what you've made is just baseless assertions and really just an assumption that socially necessary labor time must account for the quality of labor when Marx never
It
says
did
this.
account for the quality of labor, and it is.
He
stated
doesn't
in Das
mention
Kapital.
quality.
Yes,
How do
he
you
does.
not know
Or
this?
Do you just think that
All
this
right,
man
guys.
who wrote this?
I feel like we're kind of like circling around the same things because like I know Hampton's like wanting like a quote directly from the book. So if you guys like want to like shift away and talk about something else, you guys are free to do so. So I mean, it's up to you guys.
Okay, I guess we can bring up the labor theory value
Yeah.
contradiction.
I'd like to.
So,
Hold on, that kind of cut out there. What were we saying?
I guess I can bring up. I mean, there's the diamond water paradox and the labor theory value contradiction. So in Capital Volume 1, he contradicts himself, and I quote saying, "Finally, nothing can be a value without being an object of utility. If the thing is useless, so is the labor contained into it. The labor does not count as labor and therefore creates no value." So Marx admits in this, I think it's Volume 3 specifically, he admits that labor isn't the only thing that creates value. And this is such a massive, this is such a massive contradiction.
No, I think you're heavily misunderstanding that quote there, and I think I think you're making a misunderstanding of what
I'm
the labor
making a
theory of value is.
misunderstanding. So
Yeah, you
over
have a misunderstanding about what this theory
so
is. I think
people
you're
throughout
thinking-
people through
I
the
think
past
you're-
150 years have just been making a big misunderstanding of the transformation problem, which is what this is called, and this has just been it's widely
think you're
known
under the
across
assu-
everybody.
I think you're under the assumption that in Das Kapital, Marx states somewhere that all labor is valuable. That seems to be what you're. But that he never states that. He only
He
states
does,
that
though.
all value comes from labor. He never states that, all labor is valuable.
If
I were to
all
go
value
outside-
comes from labor and everything has an intrinsic value which comes of labor, then that means that labor always has value. 'Cause
Not all
what
labor
you're-
has
what
value,
you're-
but it does not state that.
So intrinsic value
doesn't.
doesn't exist.
The value comes from labor, but not all labor is valuable.
Okay, so can you answer my question? So does intrinsic value not exist?
Of course, intrinsic value exists.
Okay.
It's
So if intrinsic value, right, everything just magically has value. That value comes from the
not
labor, as
magically,
Marx
it's from
states.
labor.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. So everything must have labor, but this contradiction states that if it has no utility, then it has no value. Therefore, the labor is of no
not a
value.
contradiction.
That is it.
That's
Okay,
not a
let me
contradiction.
explain this. Okay, let me explain it because you've interrupted me here. So everything must have value, right? According to, or intrinsic value basically says that everything has some form or a quantity of value due to the amount of labor gone into it, right? Marx
Yes.
then goes and says that if it has no utility, then it has no value. But I thought what Marx previously said, that if everything had an intrinsic value. That is a contradiction. Marx contradicts himself.
What he's saying is that.
Listen to
what
me.
he's saying is
Let me
that
finish. You've
everything
interrupted
that-
me again.
Wait,
Let
Owen,
me
yeah,
finish.
Let him
me
finish.
finish.
And
All
then
right, all right.
What Marx is saying is that what he's first saying is that all commodities have intrinsic value. All labor has value because of this, right? Because it creates the intrinsic value, essentially. Then he goes to say that if it has no utility, then it had no value in the first place. That is a straight up contradiction. That is a direct contradiction, whether
I think
implied or
you're
not. How am I
Misunderstanding what he's
misunderstanding
saying, because again, Marx only stated that all value, okay, everything that is valuable because of the labor that was put into it.
So what happens
However,
if it has no
not
utility?
Not all
Wait, let him
labor,
respond.
if it doesn't
Okay.
have a utility, then it's not valuable. Just because I put labor into something
Yes, I
doesn't
know, I
mean
just
it
said
has to
that.
be valuable.
Yes, it yes it
and
does, right?
That's included. How does that?
You just
even if
contradicted
that-
it again. You just
How is that
contradicted.
a contradiction? How is that?
Let me explain. Let me explain.
And even if
Okay.
you say that, how does that?
Okay, let me
How does
explain
that
the
go
let me
against,
explain the contradiction. Let me
how does
explain it.
that? But wait, I'm just gonna
Wait,
ask you a
let
question.
Owen finish and then
Even if you say that Marx contradicted himself, even though if he did contradict himself, which is probably just, I mean, when you're writing a book that's, thousands of pages
It doesn't
long,
matter.
you might have a small slip
It doesn't. Okay, it doesn't matter the size of the book. If you're, I don't care. I'm not an objectivist, right? If you're basing your entire ideology of a few thousand-page book, and you're going to excuse a major contradiction like this just because of the size of the book, it's
one line in the book.
So let me explain. Let me explain the contradiction.
Hold on, I never got to ask this question to you.
Oh my
God. Even if that contradiction is there, which it's not, but even if it's there, how does that somehow disqualify the labor theory of value? I mean,
because he admits that other things create value. He admits that.
Where is that? Where does he admit that in that? Just
if it has no utility, then it has no value.
But how does that disqualify the labor theory of value?
If it has no
utility, comes from labor.
Okay.
So what else would create that value? What is your other mystical quality for creating that value?
Marginal utilities, supply and demand, exchange or not exchange value. Exchange value really has
nothing to do with the value of a product.
Yes,
the value
it does.
Of a product doesn't change.
Scarcity. Yes, it does. Okay. So if the value of a product didn't change, why do we trade?
Because again, this is about price. Supply and demand accounts for price.
No. We're not talking about price. We're talking about.
Well, when you're talking about
you're okay. You're shifting the goalpost.
If I want a glass of water, if I want a glass of water more, then yeah, I'm gonna pay more for it. But if I want a glass of water less, I'm not gonna pay any more for it.
Exactly.
But that doesn't change the value of the water inside the cup. It doesn't change the value of the cup. It simply changes the price.
Okay. Listen to me. If it did not change the value of the cup, whether it has been physically acted upon or not, if it did not do that, the exchange wouldn't have taken place in the first place. The reason why we exchange let's take this example. Like the reason why we exchange for like amounts, like ones that contain the same amount of labor, for example, like 2 bottles of water or something like that, it's because the users value the ends they satisfy with similar intensity, right? So you even admitted that, if I value this more, I'll pay for it more. Yes, exactly. You admit that you value it more, but if value was
about price, not value.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
Let me stop interrupting me. If value was objective, then we would not trade in the first place. And we're not even talking about price right now. We're just talking about value.
Price. I'm bringing up price, and I'm saying that this.
What we've been talking about for the past 22 minutes is just value. And all you've brought up is somehow that there's a clear distinction between price and value, and you haven't even given a clear reason why.
You've admitted it yourself. Supply and demand is the difference between price and value.
That's a straw man.
How does
that's a straw man?
If supply and demand, how would supply and demand, how would me wanting something more change the value of something? Would the water in the cup become better? Would the cup become higher quality? Would it? I mean, it doesn't change the value of something just because I want it more. It doesn't change.
Yes, it does. Okay, if this wasn't the case, then the exchange wouldn't have taken place in the first place. Like I said, if I exchange something with you, is because I value it more. It doesn't matter the contents inside of it. It doesn't matter if they've been changed or not or acted upon. The reason why is because I subjectively value it more than you value the one in your possession currently. Okay, that's why. The price doesn't matter. We're not talking about price. Price is irrelevant to this specific or context and discussion we're currently having right now. Price is completely irrelevant.
Well, you're trying to say that price and value are synonymous and that Marx didn't account for supply and demand when in actuality he did.
He didn't. Where did he? Where? He never did.
Again,
not in volume 1, not in volume 2. Use value isn't supply and demand. Use value is just simply what you can do with the product.
What you can use
value. That's not supply and demand.
It directly
isn't.
No, it isn't.
Supply
and demand.
How?
Yes,
where does he explain this?
Because it's about the price. The price
where does he explain this?
The price is determined by a combination of the value and of supply and demand. Which is
perfect.
Also your subjective value theory.
Perfect. Let's go. Value is subjective. Value affects price. Perfect.
Price is subjective. Price is subjective. Value is not subjective.
Okay, if price was subjective, then why do we objectively value $100 bill the same?
Because money isn't the same as a commodity. Money is money. It's not a commodity.
It doesn't matter. You can still use a commodity. Money. I could argue, by definition of a commodity, that money is a commodity. Because a commodity, if it has some social use, then yes, it is a commodity. and money has a social use. So
Unless you're gonna
by
use
definition,
money-
it couldn't be a commodity.
Unless you're going to use money to take notes on it or to, make a
doesn't
paper
matter.
airplane or something.
It's
It
just the
has
fact
no
that you can
use.
exchange it.
It's a
Yes, it does. It has use because you can exchange it for other like goods.
What?
So, what's your
Money-
what's your
money
point
is
you're trying
just
to
a-
make here?
money is not a commodity, and saying that money
Yes,
is a commodity.
Hampton, let him finish.
Then what is money?
Money is just a representation of how much capital you have. It has nothing to do with
No,
commodities. It's not a product.
money's a manifestation of value. Money is how we express our value because we can't just do it through bartering. That's just first of all ineffective and so inefficient and just simply doesn't work. It hasn't for thousands of years.
It has. It did.
No, it hasn't.
It did for many
The
years.
ancient Egyptians tried it and it failed miserably. They couldn't
It did.
exchange with other nations. They couldn't.
It did.
They
It
literally
did. It
open
did
up a fucking
until,
history book.
It did up until the bourgeoisie revolutions. I mean, feudalism was bargaining. I mean,
We're
that's how-
talking about like 4,000 to 5,000 BC, and they didn't barter for stuff. They had a quote unquote market, and they had some form of currency as a manifestation of value because the Egyptians realized how ineffective bartering for things is, and how that you need a currency.
bartering for things
to
is
reflect
just
a-
as effective as
Not
currency
even.
has no use.
So then,
No use.
why did ancient Egypt or why did Kush establish like gold as their official currency a few
Realize
thousand years ago?
that ancient Egypt isn't the only nation in the
Well,
in the
okay,
world,
we can
right?
take a look
That
at
there's
Greece. They use like
that there's a
silver.
lot of
We can
others.
take a look at Sumer. They used, I think, grain. We can take a look at what is the other one? The Byzantine Empire. They exchanged through a base
They bartered.
currency.
They didn't. No,
They
I mean, the
didn't
base
barter.
currency-
They had
even under feudalism, which was close to like just a couple hundred years ago, they were bartering. So
That's
to saying
kind
that
of
bartering is completely ineffective and
they
that
weren't bartering a couple
having
hundred
money
years ago.
that
A
having
couple
money,
hundred years ago, capitalism was spread throughout the world.
capitalism it first took over during the bourgeoisie revolutions, which were the French, American, and
What year?
blanking on the other one.
What
The
year?
American Revolution was 1776. The French Revolution was
This was before capitalism became like a
Captain,
thing.
what is
You
it?
realize that it became like a thing in like the 1820s. Yeah, there was markets. Yeah, there was exchange, but that wasn't capitalism. It was,
Well,
it was really just feudalism.
I thought according to you, capitalism has never been tried. That it was
True
all-
capitalism, but doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there's elements of it. Like America isn't capitalist. We have a capitalistic system. Doesn't matter, but to the extent, yeah, to an extent, yeah, they got close to capitalism to something that really hasn't been philosophized yet.
And
But
look at how that's
we're
turned
shifting-
out.
Yeah, it's turned out great. Okay.
Economic
So-
crisis every 10 years, the economy crashes and the state has to step
because
in and save it.
because the government okay, we're not doing this debate or not that or we're not doing that topic right now. Okay, so do you want to bring up empiricism to suggest that the labor theory of value is true?
Yes, the labor theory of value is true. I mean,
Okay,
Sure.
but can you express it empirically?
empirically, what do you mean?
Empirically, do you not know what that means?
No, what does the word empirically mean? What do you mean empiric?
Like
Experience.
empirical evidence.
Yeah, it's stated in Das Kapital. That's what we've been debating for the past 28 minutes.
That's
do you need me to
not
give you an
what.
example?
That's not what I'm. No, that's
Okay,
not what I'm
guys,
talking
I'll
about.
give you a definition
Mo,
for-
can you define? Okay, I can't hear Mo. Can you hear
Okay, I'll
Mo?
give you a definition of empiricism.
Owen.
Okay, the theory that all knowledge is derived from sense experience
Hello?
simulated by the rise of experimental science.
Okay, empirical evidence. Do you know what that means?
Evidence? Yeah. I how can you?
Empirical evidence. Evidence that like suggests that it's true through like trials and error or like data tables. We're not talking about Das Kapital. And if you're gonna bring up Marx, are you gonna bring up the LTV is true just because Marx said so? That is what we
Well,
call
I
an
mean,
appeal to authority
that's what was-
fallacy.
That's
So,
what was proved
okay.
in the.
Because Marx said so doesn't make it right. That's if you want to say so, then that's an appeal to authority logical fallacy. You
But
can't.
what,
you
how
can't really
can
do
you prove a theory? I mean, how can you prove that the subjective value theory is true? How can you give me any empirical
Okay,
evidence
let's take
that-
a look at the diamond water paradox.
Oh Lord, yeah, let's do that.
So the paradox of value is like is a economic. Here I'm just reading this. I have it like typed up here. So is the diamond water paradox. The paradox of value is an economic contradiction dating back to John Locke's time and appealing earlier in Plato's Epidemos. The paradox of value is a contradiction asking the question on how water can be a need to survive but have less command in the market compared to diamonds. Proponents of the labor theory of value before the marginal revolution were stumped on this paradox and didn't understand the connection between marginal utility and reflective prices. Adam Smith believed that the value in exchange is not equal to value in use, so he didn't see the connection between price and unity, as most labor theory value supporters do. So basically what it is why do we value water more as it is a basic need, but in the markets it is priced higher?
Well, I think you're kind of disproving your own theory there, as to where
How?
earlier you said value and price were synonymous, and now you're
How is that how does that disprove my theory?
Because all you need to do is, to get diamonds, you have to first, somebody has to discover where the diamonds are. Then somebody has to go in and mine the diamonds. Then the diamonds have to be transported. Then they have to be crafted into the shape, into whatever it is. It takes a lot of labor. If you want to get water, all you have to do is
well,
be
the
near
water.
any,
The reason
you know,
why
waterfront, lake, river, whatever.
cheaper. The reason why water's cheaper. Okay, so it's not the first unit that matters. It's the next unit. So to satisfy the rest of the needs. So if I have 1 unit of water and that is to satisfy my thirst, that is going to be more expensive or more valued to me than diamonds. It will be priced higher. But if I have another unit or 2 units or 3 units, I can use those units to satisfy other needs like bathing or whatever else. So that will be priced lower because you have an abundance of water, right? But you
Sure.
don't have that with diamonds.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Like,
It's only the first unit. Or sorry, it's the first unit, and even then it could be like with water too. If you satisfy all your needs with water, well, now you can satisfy your needs with diamond too to make yourself look pretty. So this is the paradox that couldn't be that couldn't be answered. This is a paradox that couldn't be answered, and who Carl Menger came up with the subjective theory of value, unknowingly solved this paradox. And I just explained how it's solved. And the labor theory of value can't solve this.
Yeah, but real quick, just want to say, like, we have kind of like an interruption problem, so like if we could stop that, that's fine. Ooh, let's hope he gets back in.
Hello?
You're nodding. Hello.
I think he cut out.
I can't hear any of you guys.
Hampton, can you hear me?
Should I leave and rejoin?
Yeah.
Let me leave and rejoin.
Oh, he can't hear.
Hampton, can you hear me? Yo,
He said
can
he
y'all
couldn't
hear me?
hear. Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. He's gonna rejoin.
All right, yeah, they're gonna rejoin, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just say, ANCOMs are not real Marxists.
Hey, hello?
Hi.
Marx is not an anarcho-communist.
Wait, why did he leave? Or how was that debate so far? Was it good?
I feel like it's going in circles. But
I know,
You
because
guys are looking
he's
good.
so reluctant to just come up. He's really just coming up with his own definitions. Like he's trying to say that socially necessary labor time just takes into account of quality of labor when it by definition doesn't. And Marx doesn't even explain this. And he's trying to say that he does when in reality he doesn't. Is that like a fallacy?
No.
Because like he's essentially really just making shit up.
Oh, it is a fallacy, apparently. So, like, I looked this up. It's called the appeal to incel fallacy.
Okay, so yeah, he's just. I'm trying not to go in circles. I'm trying to assert a position and define these terms that he's just completely or stubborn and not even willing to understand it. And he's just he's saying, oh, but the socially necessary labor time probably accounted for this, when Marx never said so. And he also said the labor theory of value is true because Marx said so. That's an appeal to authority, right?
If you state like something is true because like an authority figure said it was, then yeah.
Yeah, that was an appeal to authority. So
I don't know if he's trying to do that, but let's just hope he gets back in.
yeah, that was.
Hampton. So the fans want you to do the Joker face. Can you do that for us?
I don't have a camera. I'm on like the home
Damn it.
computer and I can't do it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the dude, I explained him to Diamond Waterparks. I know he didn't have time to explain it. I explained to him how it was solved under subjective value. I also explained to him the contradiction in labor theory of value, the transformation problem, and he just completely disregarded it and said, "Oh, but supply and demand," when that has like no relation to what we're talking about right now. And it's just like, dude, it makes no sense. Like, is he doing this on purpose? This is just really infuriating, actually. Can you see from my point?
What do you mean?
Like how he's just he's just making the appeal to authority. He's making up definitions. He's trying to make a distinction, a non-existent distinction, and he's completely disregarding what I'm saying and shifting the goalposts. So I'd like to say if he does not come back, I'd like to claim victory on this debate if you guys so agree.
Let's give it like 5 more minutes. Well,
All
wait,
right.
it's not. Yeah. Yo, Mo, can you read minds? Is that true? What this guy said?
Can I read minds? Well, I mean, I have the natural capacity to read minds, so yeah.
All right, nice. That's.
Wonder if he's coming back. I really hope it's not an internet issue.
Yeah, it's.
That would be really unfortunate.
Is this true? Mo, did you win this debate even though you joined late?
Yeah, I kind of did win this debate.
All right, Hampton.
Yeah, I think Mo claims victory. What?
Do you agree that
Yes.
Mo won? All right, cool.
Yes.
I don't think any of you guys won, like, because look, Owen the Ancom, Marx is not an anarcho-communist, so he lost in that part. And you're an anarcho-capitalist, which isn't even real anarchism. But me, I'm based. Okay, that's why I won.
Yeah, aren't you an anarcho-Stalinist?
Marxist Stalinist.
Oh, but why is your background has the ANCOM?
I used to be an Ancom. There's no real tanky logo. Like, what do you want me to do?
But yeah, in all reality, I think I think I would claim victory on this one. If Verbum, do you agree or do you disagree, or what are your thoughts on this debate?
I mean, I don't know. Wait.
I don't feel like saying right now. Like, I didn't watch the whole debate.
Mo.
Check DMs. Sure. Here, let's
Yeah.
just give it a couple more minutes to see if he joins.
Yeah.
All right. Did you send me anything?
Yeah, I did. I sent you something.
What do you guys want to do in the meantime? So we have like 3 more minutes. It's like 10:40, I guess.
Yeah. Russian capitalist. Can you give your closing statement, please?
Yeah. So, in this debate, we discussed the labor theory value and got no further than that. My opponent was reluctant to acknowledge the legitimate definition of socially necessary labor time and even the labor theory value in itself. He kept making false, non-existent or absent assumptions that Marx never made, or absent assumptions based on stuff that Marx never made, making up definitions and strawmanning a couple of my arguments and making we did or just not simply by saying, oh, but he accounted for supply and demand, which isn't a reply, if you agree with me. So, all in all, I think it's fair to say that I win this debate. Yeah. I'll.
No, I think it's me. I don't think he's joining back. It's
Yeah,
been
I
a
don't think
while.
he's coming back
He usually
either.
doesn't.
I'll put a poll up on Instagram.
Right.
Or yeah, do you guys want to do a Q&A?
I mean,
Maybe we should end the stream.
He kept making so many fallacies. It's crazy.
Alright, do you guys want to edit now?
Alright. All right, is that it?
Yeah, I guess.
Alrighty. See you.
All right, I didn't know, but see you guys.
See everyone. Wait, one last Joker face before I go.
Yeah, one more.
Yeah, one more.
Let's go. Yeah, Mo. All right. See ya.
So, Mo. See you guys. Thanks.
Sir.
Bye.
All right.